Hello Sydney, it's Oliver Damien from here in London, and I'm here to talk about copyright in the digital environment from the perspective of users and producers of ideas, knowledge, and culture, content as we call it in the age of the internet. I will discuss two distinguishing characteristics of content that makes it a bit challenging in terms of copyright and intellectual property law in general. Let me start with this apple. I have possession of this apple. I own it. I bought it from the shop next door. Now I can eat this apple, or I can give it to you, or you can steal it from me. Now after I've eaten this apple, or after I've given it to you, or after you've stolen it from me, that's it, it's gone. That's what the economists say. You can't have your apple and eat it too. So with things like apples, houses, cars, land, it's quite easy to lawfully protect property. It is relatively easy to determine who has title, possession, or rights to the property. Now let's look at this CD, or actually the music contained in this CD. So like the apple, I have possession of it, I own it. But unlike the apple, after I've listened to the music in this CD, I can listen to it again and again. I could also stick this CD into my PowerBook and using iTunes make a copy. After that, I can give this CD to you, you can steal it from me. It doesn't matter to me if that happens because I already have a copy. So as you see, music or content is said to be non-exclusive. Your enjoyment of the copy I gave you does not diminish my enjoyment of my copy. You could say that you can have your music and listen to it too. And that, my dear friends, is what makes content different. The marginal cost, or the cost of producing an additional copy once the original copy has been produced, is zero, or close to zero if you count the cost of the CD or the space in your hard disk. So for many years, record companies, media companies have exploited this characteristic of content to make enormous wealth for themselves and the corporations they represent. What they would do is they would discover artists and finance the initial production of the content, marketing, promotion, and distribution. They would then own the content, and after that, it's cash flow from then onwards. It's like a gravy train for them really, for the next 70 to 100 years after the initial content has been produced. They were able to do this, the middlemen, because in the past they owned the means of production, marketing and promotion, and distribution of content. It was just too expensive for an artist or a group of artists to own a recording studio, to own an advertising outfit, to own a radio station, or to own a CD store, a music store. But now things have changed. Anyone with a decent equipment or computer, which are now quite affordable, especially in first world countries, anyone who has this can make their own music, make their own movies, and distribute and advertise and market this content through the web, through websites, their own websites, or through community portals like myspace.com. So it is now possible for people to do this. Furthermore, it is now possible for people around the world in different places to collaborate and create content for distribution and even processing of payments through services like PayPal. So it is now possible to bypass the middlemen altogether. And that is why it is the media companies, the middlemen, who are most vocal in advocating for stricter copyright laws, because they stand to lose the gravy train they've been sitting on all these years. And And it's not really the artists who are pushing for this, as some of you might think. In fact, some artists are quite in favor or support sharing of free content. Now let's take a look at this CD again, or the music in this CD. Now the artist who would have produced the music would have learned the way to arrange notes, to put melodies together, and everything about the genre he produces in from the musicians before him. And this is the same for authors, for directors, even for lawyers, with our penchants for precedents and our need to cite from sources, authoritative sources. So every producer of current content or new content stand on the shoulders of giants, so to speak. And that is the second characteristic of content. You need previous content to create new content. The raw material for new intellectual property is previous or old intellectual property. Now, the more closed or the more stringent you make copyright laws, the harder it is for people or producers of content to create new content. You could see this with the Da Vinci Code case, for example. It makes it harder for people, especially in the case of third world countries wherein they can't afford to pay for raw material, raw intellectual property to create new intellectual property. And this will be particularly applicable to the digital age or the digital environment we live in, wherein the current generation likes to create new stuff out of remixing old stuff, or gloaming as they call it, old stuff in new forms, in new ways that were not thought of before, but still based on previous content. So this talk, brief as it may, I hope it gave you another perspective in which to look at copyright in this digital environment. And in making this talk, in creating this talk, I myself have stood on the shoulder of a giant. The ideas in this book, in this talk, were based on a book called The Wealth of Networks, which can be downloaded free from the internet. And I will include the URL of where to get that book in the handout that I'll be distributing together with this talk.